Ayrshire faces the western seaboard of Scotland, protected from the worst storms by Kintyre Arran. Most people live on the plains, while the rolling landscape has been developed for farming. Raised beaches left by changes in sea level over the ages give good crops of early potatoes, though fierce competition from overseas has led to a contraction in the home industry. The sea provides employment to fishermen at Ayr, Troon, Girvan and smaller harbours, but here again the industry is declining. Ayr used to be the administrative centre for the county, before it became head of a smaller unit. It is still the main shopping town and the most centrally placed focus for the area. The River Ayr not only splits the county in two, but it also divides the town. The town of Ayr has grown around its bridge near the mouth of the river, where earlier there had been a ford. The old brig with its cobblestones and humped back is reserved for pedestrians now, while other bridges nearby take the strain of modern transport. In feudal times, a safe home had to have good defensive situation and thick walls like those of Greenham Castle. The lintel over the door carried all three, just 1 year after Sir Thomas Kennedy was murdered near here on the sands of Ayr Bay while journeying between Ayr and his castle at Culzean. About 1197, by royal charter, William the Lion had a castle built at Ayr. The tower of St. John's Church and the walls of a great hexagonally shaped citadel occupy the site today. Cromwell's army occupied the town in the mid-17th century, erecting the citadel and taking into it part of the great church where King Robert the Bruce and the Scottish Parliament met in 1315 and where John Knox preached against the establishment in the 16th century during the Reformation. Cromwell's commander awarded the town 1,000 marks in compensation to build a new church. That church, further to the east, is now known as the Old Kirk, but it's still thriving in its restored. Ironically, it is a citadel which has disappeared, save for the Tower of St. John, the walls, curious lookout tower erected by an eccentric in the 19th century. It was here at the Old Kirk that Robert Burns worshipped. Burns was born in a cottage at Alloway in the south side of Ayr in 1759. By the time he died, 37 years later, Robert Burns had become the best-known poet in Scotland. Today, his fame has spread throughout the world, and visitors come from many countries to visit his birthplace at Alloway and other places associated with him. Tam O'Shanter is probably his best-known poem, and it takes a most hilarious look at the evils of drink, of witches and human frailty. An ancient dwelling in Ayr's High Street became a tavern and museum associated with Burns and is said to be the starting point for Tam O'Shanter's ride. Ayr enjoys an annual celebration of that fictitious ride in the tourist season. Here we see the well-known writer and broadcaster Jack House taking the role of the drunken Tam. As an investigative journalist, Jack is happy to explore a number of alehouses, but never before had he explored a horse so closely. Tam's ride takes him past Burns Statue Square, named in honour of the poet. Then the sedate procession of riders carriages and witches wends its way southwards through the suburbs of Ayr, past Burns Cottage, and on past the old Galloway, where the poet's father is buried. It was here that Tam saw the witches dancing, and on being discovered was chased on his grey mare to the River Doon. Ah, Tam, thou'll get thy fairn, in hell they'll roast ye like a hern. The race was on for the old Brig o' Doon. It was a common belief in the time of Burns that witches could not cross the centre of a running stream. With the witches in hot pursuit, his horse carried Tam to safety over the keystone, but left behind her tail clutched firmly in a witch's grip. The old Brig o' Doon is a peaceful spot downriver to a classical monument by Thomas Hamilton celebrating the genius of Robert Burns, and to two more recent bridges which carry a road and a former railway. Around his birthday on the 25th of January, Burns suppers are held worldwide to commemorate the poet. Haggis, neeps and tatties make up the main dish of the meal, while whisky is never very far away. Some butchers jealously guard the recipes for their haggis, but if you guess at meat, suet, onions and oat, not be very. Ayr people are always ready to enjoy a celebration or a procession, and are lining the streets here to watch the local majorettes passing the town's livery and leading the band over the new bridge and up the high street past the Wallace Tower. The World Pipe Band Championships are being held in the town, and the crowds are assembling in the Dam Park and its stadium on the north side of the river. The spectators can concentrate or relax by the riverside in the adjoining Craigie Park as the mood takes them. While the bands march and countermarch as they go through their routines, a combination of dress spectacle, synchronized drill and stirring musical ability, they are watched under the critical attention of the judges. The River Ayr is in the centre of the town at Craigie. Craigie House is now part of the town's university campus, while other great houses of the district have also changed with the times, such as Roselle and its park, which now belong to the town, as does Loudon Hall, one of the oldest houses in Ayr. It was built by a rich merchant around the start of the 16th century, then sold to a sheriff of Ayr. Now it is well used by local organisations for their meetings. A great expansion of Ayr developed southwards in the 19th century, pushing out from the Sandgate to Wellington Square with its statues reflecting the expansion of an empire and the expansion of a borough. Barnes House once sat on the very edge of the town, but is now one of the most centrally placed dwellings in the expanded borough, which leads past the cherry-lined Park Circus to the River Doon. Belle Isle House and its parkland are now owned by the town, with golf courses looking to the mountains of Arran, which can be distracting when you're concentrating on your swing. The walled garden at Belle Isle is a more secluded corner for those who just wish to sit in the sun or stroll gently among the lawns, flower beds, shrubs and pond. Ayr's popularity rests mainly on it being a seaside resort. From the 19th century, with the arrival of the railway, and with increasing leisure time available to all classes, the town has set out to attract visitors to its coast. On a safe, sandy beach some 2 miles long, young and old can enjoy the bustle or spread out to enjoy their freedom. Sand, sea and sun, when available, give Ayr its prosperity and a secure role in tourism for day trippers and those who wish to stay longer. The pavilion opened in 1911 and has been the venue for dancing, concerts, opera and other events. Between summer variety shows and pantomimes, the Gaiety Theatre also features a wide choice of entertainment, while the Civic Theatre makes use of an old church. Ayr takes its bowling seriously and provides facilities for the World Bowling Championship. The Ayr Racecourse holds national hunt and flat meetings from April till December. Springtime sees the racecourse hosting Ayr's agricultural show, allowing farmers to debate the qualities of the animals on view, though speed is not a priority. Speed, however, is vital when it's time for the Scottish Grand National and the Ayr Gold Cup, where the punters' hopes of beating the bookies spring eternal. Never mind, there's always next year. If your horse lets you down, perhaps your dinghy can do better, and the Ayr Regatta allows weekend sailors and the more dedicated to compete against one another. Once, but really no longer. Trade has splitted over years. Fish landings are now greatly reduced since its fish market was transferred to Troon, but a number of boats still are convenient for their needs. The dredger carrick once played a vital role in keeping clear the deep channel at the mouth of the river, but it and the huge fixed crane are long gone from the scene. Ayr, with its larger population, still holds an advantage over Troon for pleasure cruises on the Firth of Clyde. Seafarers grow nostalgic when paddle steamers of the past, such as the Caledonia, are mentioned. She came to an inglorious end on the Thames when she was burnt out serving as a restaurant. The paddle steamer Waverley keeps alive the tradition of cruising today. Girvan's harbour, like that at Ayr, sits at the mouth of a river with a sandbar which needs dredging regularly. Small pleasure craft and fishing boats come and go, with Ailsa Craig a popular destination 9 miles out. The Craig, or Parry's Milestone as it's known, is home to one of the largest granite colonies in Britain. Microgranite was quarried here in the past for curling stones. The great overhanging bare stack is a challenging sight for birds seeking a nesting ledge. The razorbill responds by laying a pear-shaped egg which rolls in a circle rather than over the cliff. The lighthouse sits on the east shore, which is the only flat part of the Craig. Goats were kept by the lighthouse keepers, with the milk being a useful addition to their diet. Now the lighthouse is automatic, and for most of the time the island is uninhabited. Girvan developed as a seaside resort after Ayr. Its sandy beach offered the same attractions, but it took the railway 20 years to reach here from Ayr, while the more open sea discouraged the pleasure cruisers. Following the tourists came the cinemas, but commissionaires, matinee queues, and the chummy seats are now largely confined to history. Kiddies' days and Gala were special attractions designed to let locals and visitors mix more freely. There was always keen competition in sporting events like the wheelbarrow race, while the judges were never short of entries for the most beautiful baby contest. Here the Gala committee poses for the camera, its months of organisation and hard work nearly over. The strands are drawn together, the sun is shining, the show is on, and everyone can enjoy themselves. Ingeniously decorated carts and vehicles are on show, while popular melodramas and Hollywood films and stars greatly influence the floats and fancy dress. Now it's time for the grand parade through the town centre. As the procession wends its way northwards along Dalrymple Street, the steps of the Regal Cinema offer an elevated view to those at the back of the crowd. Even the army came on holiday to Girvan, though drill, inspection and battle training were also on the programme. The Highland Light Infantry are the visitors. Raised in 1777 as a Glasgow regiment, sometimes known as the Glasgow Highlanders, it became the HLI in 1809. Edward, Prince of Wales, also appeared in Girvan, though many didn't see much of him. The townspeople turned out in hordes and things got a little out of hand. The authorities had great difficulty in controlling the crowd and clearing a passage for their royal visitor, but at least this cameraman got a view. Ailsa Craig gave its name to the Ailsa Shipbuilding Company in Troon, founded by the Marquess of Ailsa. On a wet day in 1922, we see the platform party assemble there to launch the paddle steamer Gala of P&A Campbell Limited of Bristol, who were to operate the ship from Swansea. Mrs. Alec Campbell names the ship and breaks a bottle against the hull to set the launch in progress. As the ship slides down the slipway, the cradle falls away and ropes take the strain. Tugs guide Glengower into the fitting out basin, where 2 funnels and other necessities will be added. Glengower served in the Southern Waters for nearly 40 years, including war service at Dunkirk in 1940. She was finally scrapped in 1960. Ardrossan is another of Ayrshire's ports. It has a regular ferry service to Arran. The harbour owes its existence to Hugh, 12th Earl of Eglinton, who in the early 19th century planned to construct a port linked by a canal to Glasgow. The canal was never completed, but the port was constructed, leading in turn to a shipbuilding industry. Here we see the Ardrossan Dockyard Company with Job 306, the Cromarty Firth, under construction. Draftsmen fuss over every detail of their ship in the drawing office. Models of completed hulls encourage the new work forward, with plans being handed on to female tracers in one end of the building. In the moulding loft, wooden battens are laid out on the floor representing the ship. Timbers are cut to size in the joiner's shop. Work is going on outdoors with a diver aiding a grab into position as the slip is constructed underwater. Steel plates for the ship are being punched and rolled by heavy machines. In the furnace shed, huge plates of white hot steel are drawn from the flames. The gaffer in his bowler hat is the only one allowed to remain cool as a frame is bent into shape and pegged to the floor. Concrete and steel makes a scaffold for the ship. Riveters set to work joining the steel plates together. Teamwork and coordination are essential to avoid casualties. An oxyacetylene torch slices shapes from the steel. The new ship is ready for the water. Supporting stocks are cleared away and vantage points taken for the occasion. The tug Burnfoot moves into position, and Mrs. Quack, wife of the managing director, performs the ceremony, and the ship is on her way. The new ship is called the Hunstanworth, and tugs move in to take over and complete another successful job.